All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Tycho Talks. It's really cool. We got Callum here again. My G. Oi. I don't think people understand. I love having these conversations with you because we just keep in mind that we actually don't prepare for these at all. Every single podcast we've done, we've just done it on a,
on a whim,
just like that. Yeah. Hey, come over. Let's record for 45 minutes and just have a conversation. I think the reason I like it so much is because we're just mates and we're having that just a conversation with each other. And everything that we've learned on our individual journeys, we're bringing it together and we just have it's a good chat.
Yep, I feel the same way.
So I think that's why I enjoy it so much. Today's episode is going to be a good one. I'm pretty keen to get into this one. We're going to be talking about purpose. And I think as a society, we actually lack purpose these days. We're so distracted with so many different things that people don't really take the time to sit down and think about their values, their passions, and what their purpose is in life. And that can be an issue when you don't have purpose in life. It can lead to depression, anxiety, feeling worthless. So I think it's going to be an awesome topic to touch on. It's going to be cool to hear what your thoughts are on the topic, but then also personally in your life, like what is your purpose? What is my purpose? And we'll touch on that. But straight off the bat, what does purpose mean to you? Like when you hear that term, what's your purpose in life? What do you think of?
Yeah, I love that. So I think purpose is really your reason for being. So it's what you define as why you're here, what you really want to accomplish. It's that force that just gets you out of bed, gets you moving, allows you to overcome different obstacles. And it's even Carl Jung described it as sacrifice for something greater than yourself. So not just your selfish needs and what you want, but what you can actually give that goes beyond that.
Yeah,
Would you have a similar belief there? Or?
Yeah, pretty much. I like what you said in terms of sacrificing what do you want for something long term or for something greater, a greater thing in life, whether that's family or your community, your country, whatever it is.
Even your time and energy in terms of creating whatever it is that you want to do. That's a sacrifice as well.
Yeah, true. So I really like that, and I think that's a big part of it. I think for me, I would answer in a similar way. Obviously, I have a faith. So Christianity is always going to be the cornerstone of my life, and any answer I give will usually revolve around my belief system. And I think when you have a belief system that you're so grounded in, like Christianity, I believe in God and I believe that He, blesses my life and, He's put me on certain paths to glorify Him, but then to succeed personally while for the time I've got on planet Earth. Purpose is a big one because it ties into, so it's something bigger and greater than materialistic things on Earth. It's something bigger and greater than just what we have in the next 20, 30, 40 years on planet Earth.
Yep.
It's something eternal. It's like we're talking about a superpower. We're talking about, not a superpower, but what's it called? Like a supernatural forces, right? Where because I have a faith in God, my purpose goes beyond, as you mentioned, like just myself.
Yep.
Like this life's not just about me. It's about, well, how do I live life in a way that's going to eventually show that I have a faith in God and glorify Him at the end, right? And then obviously there are other things as well. So family is a big one, like my future family, legacy. There's a lot that comes into it when it comes to what I'm striving for currently. And as you mentioned, the sacrifices that I'm making right now for then what I want in 5, 10, 15 years for those other people. Like it's not even for me. A part of it is always going to be, as a default, it's always going to be for you.
Right.
Like there is a part of it where your ego is like, I want to succeed. Like I want to accomplish this. I want to be successful. And then a majority of it is for other people. It's for my future this, for my future that. And I think that's why, I think it's actually important. Like if you're just focused on you, at the end of the day, that fire is going to burn out.
Yeah, that's it.
That fire is going to burn out and you start to lose purpose,
Yeah. And having a purpose in terms of that, of what you can provide for others, that gives you a reason to pursue your own personal accomplishments and those material possessions. Like, I don't think a purpose can be money. But if your purpose is use money to set up your family,
For sure.
to provide for community, for invent something that can help the world, whatever, that's way more of a driving thing that'll push you to do more than just, I want to have $1 million.
Yeah,
because that's not going to be fulfilling.
100%. Oh yeah, 100%. And I know we hear this all the time, and I've experienced it in like micro doses. By the way, sorry, I just yapped like for a good 6 minutes, like just yapped. And the thing is, I'm actually really, you know how I have like ADHD, so I'm yapping, and I'm trying to get my point across, and all I can think of is Nala at the door. Can you hear her? I just can't, like, I'm like, yeah, Nala, stop. Can you hear her?
Yeah, purpose is to get in and
Like, I'm trying to concentrate on this. All I can hear is Nala just doing whatever the hell she's doing over there. But what were we talking about? So purpose, what were we talking about?
our own purpose, sacrificing for something greater.
Oh, yeah, money. So you're absolutely right. And I've had this in micro doses where I'm always like, once I accomplish this, I'm going to be fulfilled. And that's enough for me. Yeah. And you accomplish it, or you get the nice watch, or you get the nice car, or whatever, and you realize straight away that it doesn't fulfill you.
No.
It's nice. It's a very temporary feeling of like, yes, I did it. But if you don't have a greater purpose or a greater goal that you're always striving towards, you lose excitement. You lose motivation. Like, you hit it. If you're not ready to go on to the next goal, which is like your greater purpose in life, it can become really depressing, actually. You could go on a high and then completely drop.
Yeah. Because
you don't have that thing that's keeping you going, right? And I think that's important. I mean, we always talk about money. Like, yeah, once I'm a millionaire, I'm going to be happy. It's got nothing to do with you being a millionaire. It's got everything to do with the person you're becoming in the process. And then that person you're becoming, are you eventually going to fulfill your greater purpose? And that's different for everyone. And we'll talk about our purposes in a second. But that is ultimately what you want to fulfill, which is everlasting. It doesn't end. When you have the mindset of, I'm going to hit this and then it's over, I've accomplished everything, that's where it can be quite dangerous, because you hit it and you realize, well, that was it. That's it. Like, I did it. Now what? And that's actually like a lack of purpose in life.
Definitely.
Do you want to add on
and it's something I think even I've touched on in episodes I've been on, where the mind isn't really wired for fulfillment. It's wired for striving for more, right? Because we're naturally always looking for, the next food that we can eat to survive, or the next predator coming along.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so dangerous to not have a purpose, as you touched on as well. Because people then, all they do is pursue pleasure. And those momentary accomplishments, they don't actually fulfill you for long.
Yeah.
So that's when, exactly as you said, you can go into a depressive spiral, or you can get into different traps there because you're not actually fulfilled. Whereas if you have a purpose, something that you're not even necessarily attaining, it's ever evolving, but you're striving for, something that you're building an identity for yourself, something bigger than you that you can give and sacrifice to, that's when you're fulfilled. Because you're always making progress towards it. And that's really what leads to that happiness and fulfillment as well.
100%. And I think it's important along the way to reward yourself. The human psyche, like, it functions on a reward system. You need to hit a certain goal, reward yourself, but you just can't be caught up with that's it. Like, you've always, as you just mentioned, you've got to be striving for a greater purpose.
Yep.
And what I've found anyway is, if that greater purpose is all about you, which is what we've just touched on, but I really want to go into this in a bit more detail. If it's all about you and your ego and how you appear to the world, and it's not about the value you bring to the people around you and to society as a whole, number one, you can become very narcissistic. But number two, I think that's a clouded version of purpose. It's not true purpose.
Yep.
Because when it's all about you and you're trying to hit that, like, whatever it is, like, you want to be a multi-millionaire, and it's about you and you looking good to everybody else. Whereas, I mean, one person could want to be a multi-millionaire for them, and another person could want to be a multi-millionaire because, they want to buy their time back, they want to provide for their family, they want to go out and do missionary work, they want money to not be an issue so that they can actually go out and use their time for good and help people and help other people grow, donate, whatever. They're very similar. The end goal is to what? Be a multi-millionaire. But One is a purpose that lacks meat, that lacks
That substance to it.
that substance to it, and the other is purpose that is genuine and is everlasting. Because you're going to hit that goal of being a multimillionaire, but your impact on the world is everlasting.
Right.
You can never, like, you don't impact one or two people and be like, yep, that's enough. Like, it's everlasting, it's ongoing. There's so many countries you can go to, so many schools you can build in third world countries. There are so many young boys and girls that you can mentor and help with their issues. If anything, I mean, we're entering into a stage where anxiety is crazy these days, like the level of anxiety and depression among kids, youth. And so, if anything, like the youth need us more than anything these days. They need people to sow into them more than any other generation.
Yep.
So, do you want to add on that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I really like as well, because I was going to touch on when you said mentoring, and I don't know whether you meant it in the same way, but even not only can you actually help people through that capacity that you've built, whether it's the money you've accumulated, the knowledge that you've done, the experience you have, anything to that effect, but you can also, through the person you've become and being that example, you really do create that impact and that legacy, because you can inspire others to do the same thing.
For sure.
Right? Anyone who wants to go and travel and give back, I'm sure they're not just independently coming up with that. They'll see different people and go, I want to be like them. You know, I want to be like Mr. Beast and create these wells and these houses, or I want to do like someone else has done.
Yeah.
So I really like that, because I think it really does help carry it on, and it's that ripple effect. It's compounding. And it doesn't even have to be on that big of a scale. You can just, for example, really to help with that epidemic of anxiety and depression that people are facing, your purpose could literally be to just help people mentally and emotionally, to just feel better. Not even by necessarily becoming like a clinical psychiatrist, but just by working through your own things and then being that light in someone's life.
Yeah.
That when you're around them, they can be happier, they feel a bit better, you've lessened that load. And you doing that, you can have a profound impact in people's lives by just everywhere you go, adding value, being a good light, and that can compound as well. Others can then start to do that. So even just these little things, these benefits that happen from you developing your purpose are widespread in terms of the impact that can actually have.
Absolutely. That's awesome. It's funny. Well, it's not funny. It's interesting because it's funny. Everything's funny to me, but it's interesting because when I think about my purpose, I mean, we'll touch on our purposes in a second, but I love the idea, and a lot of people don't resonate with this because people these days, I don't know what is up with, I don't know what's in the water or the food or whatever, but people these days take kindness for weakness. They think that you being kind is weird and it's sus and it's like, he must want something in return. I hate that mentality because I've always seen it as I want to, wherever I am, however much money I have, whatever my situation is, I want to always be adding value to people. And that can come in really big ways where it's I'm directly adding value to someone through a mentorship or through really helping them, get out of a terrible spot in their life. Or it can come from a really indirect way where I just smile at someone. Or I go and ask someone how their day is. Or I go, pay for someone's groceries. It's something so small that can make a massive difference in people's lives, especially these days where people need that hope. There's not much hope going around. Everyone you talk to, everyone seems stressed. The cost of living, inflation, our wages aren't going up, everything else is going up. People are really we're not vibing right now as a country or even as a world. There's wars happening in other parts of the world. So people need that little bit of hope. And I want to be able to, and not just me, but I know you're the same, just wherever we are, just add value to people.
Yeah.
Even in the smallest ways.
Yeah.
And I think, as you said, I know, as you mentioned, that stems from my greater purpose in life. My purpose is it's not about me. It's about others. It's about how I can impact other people.
Yeah.
How can I impact my future family, my wife, my kids, my current family, the people that I interact with. It's all about them, and I think that's why my purpose is going to be really great. Forever long I live, a couple of years, 10 years, 100 years, it's always going to be great because it's not about me, it's about other people.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of purpose, why do you think it's dangerous to not have purpose in your life? And I want to touch on this. I'll let you answer. Sorry, I'm yapping again. I'll let you answer, and then I'll touch on on a book that I read that talks about this, and it's amazing.
All right, great. So, I mean, a lot I want to say there.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm really glad because of what you said. That's why I think we get along so well, because we do have such an alignment of purpose.
Yeah.
We really do want to go out, impact in all these different ways. And in terms of something that we can touch more on later, we can revisit even about how to find your purpose.
Yep.
But one thing that I really like in terms of that, and something about adding value to people, helping them, even in these minor ways, such as smiling at them or something like that. An area that I really like is about finding meaning in suffering. And it's because every person is unique. So we all have our own unique experiences, skills, knowledge, interests, passions, everything like that. And I heard this from Ed Milet, which I really love, which is the person that you are the most equipped to help is who you used to be.
Wow, I like that.
Right?
Yeah, I like
so that's a good way to find a meaning in suffering where, and exactly as you touched on as well, it's not just for you. You need to get over what you're actually going through because it equips you to better be able to help others in that same situation. So if you are struggling with something, maybe it was, like obviously it's not good, quote unquote, that you're going through it, but maybe you're stronger than most and more driven than most and smarter than most in these areas. And you being able to work on it and overcome it really perfectly puts you in a spot to support people that are going through it but don't know how to get out of it or aren't as strong, right? Now, in terms of what you asked me about the lack or the dangers of having a lack of purpose, I think it's huge because it really falls into what we've already talked about a little bit as well, is that if people don't have a direction that they want to go, it can get really bad. For number one, they can just pursue different pleasure, and they won't have that deeper thing, so they're just going to be really selfish. They'll try to pursue money, they'll try to pursue different things that won't really improve them, that just tries to make them fulfilled for that little bit of time, and it won't. And not only can that make you feel anxious and depressed because you don't have that greater calling, but it can make you actually a detriment to other people.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to help others, you want to take from them. You're just trying to get everything that makes you feel good. And that can be on a small scale or it can be on a large scale. That can be a governmental thing where they're not focused on helping people, or even a dictatorship or different areas like that. But I think if you don't have a purpose, and that's a widespread thing, which I think in most cases it is, it means we can't make huge change. I think the way to change is you change the individual and you change as many people as possible. And by people getting aligned in their values and what they want to do, that's when it's like mastermind group that Napoleon Hill talks about. You can make the bigger change. Because you know what comes, if everyone's separate and running around, no one's really doing anything.
For sure.
We're all just worried, and then that's when it all falls apart.
Yeah. And I believe in everything is energy. That comes down to energy. I mean, if we're all scattered, if we don't have a purpose in life and we don't find alignment with others around us, and we're all just doing our own thing because of selfish needs, and because we are focused on pleasure over like legacy or over, pleasure over purpose, right? What you find is, I mean, people are, like you said, are going their own way. Energy is the strongest when it comes together, it's going on the same path. It magnifies, right? Yep. And that's where you get a really, really powerful force. And you're right, Napoleon Hill talks about the mastermind group, where you could be an amazing entrepreneur, you could be an amazing businessman. If you're going by yourself, it's great. I'm not saying you're not going to be able to make it, but if you are surrounded with people who have the same vision as you and are on the same path, that force is unstoppable.
Yeah.
Like you guys are just going, like it's like a what's that thing that goes on water?
A jet ski.
A jet ski. I don't usually go to the ocean, bro. A jet ski. Like you are just, nothing is stopping you.
Yep.
Nothing is stopping you. Right? If you're doing your own thing, you're like the Titanic. Like you're going very slowly, and eventually you lose track of what's in front of you. Life gets hard, it fogs up, and you hit an iceberg.
That's right.
That's a good analogy, bro.
You smash it. You don't go to the ocean.
That is not going to be anywhere because I just made that up. I hate the ocean. So it's up to you guys. You can either be a Titanic or a jet ski.
Nice.
And it's like the jet ski is where you've got people, like you're all going the same direction. You're helping each other out. It's not about competition, it's about collaboration. And that energy is formed where you're bound to hit your personal goals. But then, as you mentioned, it's not just about you. You're bound to impact so many more people.
Yeah.
Through in that way.
Yeah, because your capacities combine. If I'm a millionaire, I can do a lot. But if we're both millionaires, think about the combined causes that we can have.
For sure.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And I read a book. I don't know if you've read The Way of a Superior Man. It's one of the best books I've read. And this is more directed to males, to men. But even in the book, I mean, women have a purpose too. Now, I think society as a whole has done a really, really good job at misguiding men and women in terms of what their actual purpose is. Right. And I think that's why you have a lot of lost men, because back in the day, purpose was very clear. You are a man, you are a provider. And I'm just going to put it out there. It was very clear. There was no wishy-washy feelings about it. It was just like, you're a man. Your job is to work.
Get out there and make it happen.
Get out there, make it happen. Work, provide for your family. If that means you got to go to frickin' war at 17, 18 and leave your family, that's what they were doing. Mm-hmm. That was their purpose. In today's age, we have so many distractions. We've got video games. We've got, dating apps, pornography. We've got all this stuff that takes away at a man's purpose. Then we've got things like the radical feminist movement, which, by the way, we're all feminists, but I'm talking about the radical feminist movement, which takes away from a man's purpose. It says, you don't need a man. You go do what you got to do. You can replace the man's job. Mm. And so what we've found is men have seen that and like, well, they don't need us. There's no point.
What's the point?
What's the point? Okay, so I think that in this generation, men are probably the most lost they've ever been, because what was very simple, society has taken that away from them. And society has said, well, you don't even need to provide for her because she can provide for herself. And I think in some senses, yes, of course a woman can provide for herself. But once again, when we talk about combining forces, when a man is in his element and a woman is in her element, and she can be one of the strongest women as well. We know a lot of strong, powerful women who are in their element, but they can come together. He can provide for her. She can, provide security, emotional security for him, and it can work really well together. Mm-hmm. And I think that, the way of the superior man, it talks about a man needs purpose in his life. If he does not have purpose in his life, he will fall into the pit of destruction. He's not going to go anywhere. And if a man sacrifices that purpose, like his purpose should be the number one thing on his priority list after God. It doesn't say that in the book, but just for me, sure, whatever. But it's like, it should be like faith, purpose, family, blah, 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 right? If you put your significant other above purpose, what you find is, and this is what the book touches on, she will begin to resent you. At the beginning, it's great.
Yep.
At the beginning, she'll be like, thank you so much, like you're putting me first, I love you. But what happens is, because you're not striving for those big goals in life, she sees you as lazy. She doesn't see you as a go-getter who's trying to make things happen. And even though you did it for her, subconsciously, she will begin to blame you for it. And she'll begin to say, you got nothing going with your life. You're not, what are you doing? How are you going to provide for a family of 6? Oh, that's a lot of kids. How are you going to provide for a family of 3 if you can't even provide for me right now?
Yep.
Right? And so it's so important for men to always have purpose first. And what happens is, even though you might deny in the beginning, you might be like, look, babe, I've got to spend this much time on my business. I've got to spend this much time at the gym. It might cause a bit of, upset at the beginning, but eventually she'll get over it when you can show her that you can prioritize her in other ways, and she'll begin to support you on that journey. And it's the same thing with women, right? I mean, I think for a majority of women, when they get to that age of their mid-20s to late 20s, their purpose is to, is to nurture. They really do. And look, when I say this, it's not, black or white. You're going to have outliers. You're going to have different people with different views and perspectives and all that. We get it. But just for the most part, you get to your mid-20s, your late 20s, and you start to want to have a family. You want to have kids. You want to be able to raise those kids. And that's usually a woman's purpose in life. And that's what fulfills her, right? Do you want to touch on that or add on that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was really liking everything you said. Very well said. Really what I was just going to touch on as well is that I think prioritizing your purpose first, that actually is selfless, right? People think that is selfish because but then I'm not prioritizing her or my family or whatever it is. But you doing that is what actually gives you that capacity to then help them. Right? Sure. And not just a money thing, like if it's a business, but in terms of your confidence will go up, your knowledge will go up, all these areas that grow you, right? And the better that you are and the better that they are, the better that you come together, right? So prioritizing your purpose is selfless, because it creates that capacity that's broadened to support them. It even allows you, I think the more you've worked on yourself, the more you don't judge others, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be there to help her grow as well, or your kids, all these areas too. That's what I'd add to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's true. And I think that's why in the long term, when you have your purpose first, she supports you in the long term because she realizes that it's actually for her.
Right.
And for her offspring, for her future family. You know, you're building everything for her, right? So I know, like as soon as you start to prioritize anything over your purpose as a man, things start to go downhill because once again, you lose focus, you lose motivation, you don't feel the need to be disciplined anymore. You know, when you get comfortable in a relationship and you're like, yeah, I got the girl that I want, and you start to forget about your purpose in life, give it a year or two, everything is going to come crushing down.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start to revert to your old ways. You're going to start getting lazy. You're going to be like, well, why do I have to work for anything if I've got, if she's number one and I've got what I want, why do I need to better myself as a man? Why do I need to work, try and get out of this tax bracket and get into a higher one? Why do you need to do any of that? If she's number one, if your purpose is number one, you're always going to want to be better. Mm-hmm. And then as a byproduct, she benefits from that.
Right.
She's happier because of that.
Yeah.
Your children have a good father because of that. Like it's definitely something that I think is undervalued in society. Now, what do you do when you can't find your purpose?
Good question. So there's a Japanese philosophy called Ikigai. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if you've heard of that.
No, I haven't.
And it basically talks about how to find your purpose.
Yeah.
So what they define as your purpose and how to find it, because as we've also talked about a little bit, every person is unique.
Yeah.
In terms of their experience, knowledge, skills, everything like that. Mm-hmm. So basically, and maybe in editing we can put up a photo of it or something. But
yeah, sure.
Basically, there's 4 circles, like a Venn diagram kind of thing, that all intersect. And in the 4 circles are what you're good at, what you can get paid for, what you enjoy, and what the world needs. And the intersection of all those points is your ikigai, or your reason for being, your purpose. Mm-hmm. So it's the combination of your vocation, your profession, your passion, and your mission. All right? So I think an easier way to actually, that one there, that's it. So if you look at those areas and you find what are you good at, what does the world need, what you can be paid for, and what you love, what you enjoy doing. Where those intersect is what your specific ikigai, your purpose is for being on Earth. And that can be a lot of things. As we've touched on, that can be very large scale in terms of maybe a governmental position, changing legislation, or it could be as simple as maybe as a teacher, you could provide for kids, you like to help them in that way, you get paid, and then you've helped the next generation to be prepared, right? So I was watching another thing by Robert Greene. And what he was talking about is very similar, is you can find something that you love to do. There can be a few main areas. I'm sure there's more of them. But he said the main areas where that people naturally will kind of move to. And this is often from childhood, you'll notice. So think back as a kid at the time when you were the most passionate, the most driven, the most fulfilled. That's often even if it's not directly, it's very linked with your purpose.
Yeah.
Right? So that can be maybe a linguistic thing, whether it be writing, poetry. It could be music, harmony, so songs, because you can create impact in a lot of ways. Even for me, like Eminem, right? Yeah. Some people might not resonate with that at all. That's helped me through a lot of stuff because I can relate to the messages, It can empower me, that type of thing. It could be a engineering and spatial awareness thing, so that could be invention, creating something that can create change even in a minor way, or a social thing as well. And that might be related to psychology, being a teacher, being a mentor, something like that.
Yeah.
And what he talks about, which I was going to refer back to in terms of Napoleon Hill and in terms of society, is he goes, think about when your parents tell you they want you to do a certain path and you know you don't want to do that. And then you go into your room, you slam the door as a kid and you start doing like rapping. And maybe you know that that's actually what you want to do. You lean more towards the linguistic side of things, or whether it's writing, reading, something like that. So he goes, that's the enemy. Now, not your parents are the enemy, but the distraction trying to pull you away from what you know you don't want to do. Right? And that's very linked with Napoleon Hill, for example, Outwitting the Devil. He talks about definite chief purpose and aim is what you want, and then the devil is in the drifting, is in what tries to pull you away from that. So look back in terms of what you were doing as a kid, these areas that intersect, and that's how you can find it. So that would be my advice to actually finding your purpose. And it could be literally as simple as we were touching on before as just being a light in people's lives.
Yeah.
Maybe you've been through a lot of pain, you want to help others out of it. So your job doesn't even have to be related to that necessarily, but maybe you just don't mind your job, you still find fulfillment in it, and then you spend the rest in terms of lifting other people up.
That's awesome. I'm not even going to add to that because that was so perfectly said. I love that. I've never seen this before, but this is awesome. I'm going to print this out and put it up on my wall. It's interesting because I think you answered it perfectly. I'm really not going to try and answer it in a different way, but let's talk about this. What do they call these?
Like Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, right? So you've got what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, because it's important to be paid, what you're good at. Now, if you see any of those four in isolation, it's not good. If you focus on what you're good at and you forget about what you love and you forget about what the world needs and you forget about, well, can you be paid for it? Mm-hmm. Not good.
You're not going to succeed.
You're not going to succeed.
Yeah.
If you focus on what you love and you forget about the other three, not good. You're going to be,
just indulgent.
Just indulgent. Yeah. Pretty much. That's just like all pleasure. Okay. If you just focus on what the world needs and you don't take care of you, not good.
Right. You'll run out.
You'll run out,
Yep.
for sure. And then obviously if you just focus on well, how can you be paid and you don't want to actually add value to anybody, that's very self-destructive as well.
Yep.
So it's crazy because I'm looking at this and like you actually need, even if we were to pick two, you pick two and it's like, great, what you love, what the world needs, that's your mission. Awesome. What you love, what you're good at, that's your passion. But that's only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
So really, you look at this and you need all four. You need something that's going to add value to the world. You need something that's going to, well, how do you get paid? Because I think it's important. I mean, you can be the best person in the world. You can be adding all this value, but if you can't fund your life, how are you going to make greater impact?
Yep.
So a lot of people think, well, I don't care about money. It's like, that's great. I'm not saying care about money, but money is like it's going to help you with your greater purpose in life. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying
it's a necessary tool.
It's a tool, exactly.
Yep.
And so I don't really get when people are like, oh, but money doesn't make you happy. No, money in itself doesn't make you happy if you're a trashy person. But what money can do for you and for the people that you love can definitely make you happy.
Yeah.
Like cool, $1 million might not make me happy, but $1 million where my wife doesn't have to work, that's going to make me happy if she doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
Or $1 million where my kids can be homeschooled and do whatever the hell they want, that's going to make me happy.
Yep.
So you look at this and it's like they're all needed. They're all needed. And that's amazing. I will put that up on the screen so people can see it. And you're right. I mean, if you want to find out what your purpose is, write down, what do you love? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? What are you good at? And really put it into ChatGPT. You'll find out like, well, how do you, what can you do then?
Take some time to go through it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's very linked to your identity as well. I think maybe it's not perfectly the same, but purpose and identity are very linked.
Yeah.
I think so. Really find some time to get clear on your values, what you want to do, these areas, and you will be able to identify your purpose.
That's awesome. I love that so much. I'm
I'm
going to make sure I print it. So let's talk about what your purpose is in life.
Finally.
And we'll wrap up with this. But
Sure.
what is your purpose in life?
So my purpose in life, it's really big. That's the thing. I have so many different areas. And also, as I said before, you and I are very aligned in this. I'm so grateful that we are able to be connected because we can work on this together.
For sure, yeah.
Right? So my purpose is definitely, I'm not even actually very money driven. I know you're more money driven.
I know
than
you're
am.
not, yeah.
Right?
I'm definitely more money driven.
But I know that I need money for everything. It's a necessary tool, as I said. So I actually do want to be very well off. And I am going to treat myself. I'll have a big house.
Yeah, I know you
I'll have
will.
all this stuff, absolutely. But I really just want to have as much capacity as possible to be able to do what I want with my time and my money. Right? Have the money to do what I want and the time to actually spend doing that. So I am a very people-oriented person, as you know. I literally love people. I am here to help people. I know that.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to be free so that I can give my wife the best life possible, my kids and family and friends, my association around me the best life possible. And I want to also have grown myself in these areas so much. So everything we're talking about as well, that's why I love to do it. Because we're helping people improve their mindset, find their own values, their purpose. I want to do that. I want to help people to grow themselves in all these ways because that will compound as well. Not only am I free, I'm fulfilled, I'm on purpose and I'm helping people, but I'm helping other people help people. And that compounds. You've heard the phrase, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard the phrase, if you teach a man, or if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. If you teach a man to teach others to fish, he feeds a community for generations.
I love that. Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, right? I love that.
So that's what I want to do. I want to equip myself as best as possible and help them. And in terms of more specifics, I want to donate to a lot of charities. I want to work on third world countries in terms of infrastructure, water and wells, this type of thing. I want to look into genetic augmentation and different ways to benefit it to help with different diseases. I've even recently had a family member who's been diagnosed with a disease. I want to work on that, preventing it. And I want to also a lot of mental health stuff. So I've had, and I haven't been like diagnosed with anything. I've struggled with mental health in the past. I've had different family that have had very difficult mental health issues. So I want to also work on foundations that are actually there to support people. Even if I don't start them, just funding them as a way to provide support for people, give them that care that's needed.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what my purpose is aligned with.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, as you mentioned, we're pretty similar.
Yeah.
In terms of what our purpose is in life. I mean, it's pretty much exactly the same.
Yep.
I want to obviously free myself. That's going to be the first thing. I can't free anyone else if I'm not free.
Right.
Can't help anyone else if I'm stuck in a 9 to 5. And I don't hate my 9 to 5. I respect where I'm at a lot. I love my job. I respect my directors, as in the CEOs of the company. I think they're great, really great people. And I'd love to continue to help them in the long term, but not as... I don't want them to pay me for me to help them. I want to be able to do what I'm doing, making a ton of money, and help them because I love them and I want to help them in their company.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I've never thought about that. Where I would stay around, I'd help them, but not because I have to, because I want a paycheck from them. I want to be self-funded. But I don't hate my job. I actually respect my bosses a lot. Future family is a big one. Like, I want to be able to provide for the girl that I end up with, and just in so many different ways, like financially, obviously, emotionally, and that comes to like emotionally is a big one. Like I've had a lot of people tell me, and I've had conversations with a few girls where they've literally said, the best thing about you is that you're very calm. They've said that to me. And I didn't realize how much of a compliment that was until they explained that that's what they want. They want someone who's so just set in their way that they can provide that level of security for them. And that's something that comes from purpose, because I'm working on my greater purpose, and I can't reach my greater purpose if I'm not intentionally working on the traits and the characteristics that are going to help me get there.
Yeah.
And so because I'm focused on my greater purpose and I'm working on those traits, I'm being better, and that's what they're seeing. They're seeing that in me. They're seeing the calmness. They're seeing the patience. So that's a big thing as well, like being able to provide all that to not only my significant other, but future kids, the people around me, people that I love. And that's a work in progress, obviously.
Sure.
Obviously, like, I want a lot of money. I'm money driven.
Yeah.
I'm money driven.
You are, that's right.
But I know that it's only going to get you so far.
Right.
I just don't want to have to think about money. The same way we don't think about water.
Yep.
And then from there, like, when I have everything, you know, I do want to adopt. I want to go out and travel the world and just, you know, help third world countries. I'd love to go and, you know, just imagine how much money I could just splash. And I'm not talking about these charities, by the way. I have a thing with charities. I don't know if we should get into it now, but
Sure.
You know, charities, I read this somewhere where they only have to legally donate like 20, 30% of what they get.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everything else they can actually, they pay the CEO, they pay their workers, which makes sense because I understand that you got to pay people, but 20 to 30%?
It's absurd. And I'm sure it depends, like some are better than others, etc.
Yeah, some are better, but 20 to 30%. And I'm like, screw the charities. Like, I want to directly go to these countries and drop $500,000 on a town and help educate. Like, you know what I want? I want to provide education for kids in third world countries. But they don't have that. I want to be able to do that because that ties back into, you know, you teach a man how to fish and he can feed himself for a lifetime. But if you teach a man how to teach another man how to fish, the impact that you have is worldwide.
Yeah.
So if I can go to some of these third world countries when I'm financially set, and I can go with my partner or whatever, and we just stay there for 3 months, 4 months, and provide education to these, I don't want to say third world kids, but like
The youth there,
the youth
whatever,
there,
yeah.
like and then they can build on and continue to teach.
Right.
Because I'm not saying like we don't have to have them escape their country. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to have them leave their country and go to Australia or whatever. But instead of trying to run away from their country, why don't we help fix their country?
Love it.
You know what I mean? I'm not, bro, I am not against immigration. My parents are freaking immigrants, right? Like, I'm not like, stay in your own country. Like, but instead of the focus being, well, let's help them escape, why don't we help them reform their country?
Yep.
And help the next generations that are coming up? Because
Yep.
once again, you help them escape, great. You've saved one bloodline.
Yeah.
You've saved one
Yep.
person and her future family. Why don't we educate them and help them fix their country so that you can save thousands of people, thousands of kids?
Band-aid versus root. Right?
Yeah.
One's just a temporary thing. One gets to the actual
For sure,
cause of it.
for
Yeah,
sure.
That's it.
So I'd love to be able to do that. And it comes down to education and resources.
Yeah.
Educate, like whether being educated is the most powerful asset that you have,
Yep.
apart from your time. So if you can go into these third world countries and sow into them and provide the financial resources to have them be able to have that education, I'd love to do that. Once again,
That's great.
I'm yapping,
That's really
but there's so many things. I mean, for me as well, impact for the younger generation, for youth.
Yep.
For some reason, I just have this massive heart for helping people who are not in good situations.
Yeah. So,
A massive heart, like especially if I see a young guy or a young girl and they are on drugs, they're addicted to alcohol, my heart goes out to them and it's like, I want to help you. I don't want to fix you because you're the only one who can fix yourself.
Right.
But I want to show you what life is like on the other side. I want to show you like, how can you help yourself enjoy a better life without this bullcrap? You know what I mean?
yeah.
So my purpose is it's crazy, man. I want to do so much. I want to obviously inspire. I'd love to travel the world and speak to people and
Yep.
and help them. I know that's what you want to do too.
100%. Even write like different books or something, or different resources for people to access.
Yeah, look,
I mean, that's what the podcast is essentially.
you're right. I was about to say, I'm like, look, it's a challenge in itself reading a damn book. I'm not writing one, bro.
I'll take care of that.
You can write the books, man. I'll just do the podcast. But
Sure.
even this, like,
Yeah.
it'd be crazy if this reached thousands of people, where it would help. Like when I was doing the YouTube stuff before Tycho Talks, I used to get comments. It was just me and a camera. I used to get comments like, this actually, thank you so much. This helped me. And it was just random people.
Yeah.
And that was my purpose in itself. And I used to always say, like, I don't care how much hate I get from this. If it's impacting one person, it's enough for me to keep going.
It's really good.
And so even this, I mean, if I could reach thousands of people, not for my own ego, but you never know what someone might hear. It might change their life. It might prevent them from hurting themselves.
Yep.
It might prevent them from hanging out with the wrong crowd who are going to get them addicted to drugs and alcohol and all that bullcrap. It might really help change someone's direction,
Yep.
you know? So I'm all about people as well. We've talked about The Go-Giver. It's an amazing book.
Incredible book.
One of my favorite books still.
Yep.
And that book basically, if anyone wants to know what's Nate's purpose, like what is Nate's, like what is going on in here, read The Go-Giver. You read The Go-Giver and that book is how I want to be. I haven't read it in a while. Who's the guy who connects?
Oh, I don't remember.
I don't remember, but like, yeah, basically
great
just read the book. Read the book. You understand.
really
Like,
short book.
It's
as well.
short
like
book, yeah.
120 or something.
Yeah, it's nothing, yeah. But yeah, anyway, that once again yapped on a bit too long. I don't think I've had my pre-workout today, so I'm just like
that'll do it.
yapping. But that was good, man.
That's
Do you
really
want to add anything else? Anything we missed on? Maybe
I don't think
flick
so.
through your
I'll have a
notes?
quick look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have a quick look because we might as well. In short, try and find your purpose, and I'll put
get clear
I'll put
about
that Venn diagram up. That if you don't know what it is, follow this because this is amazing.
Yeah, it's a very good tool.
I don't know how I've never seen it before.
Oh, it's great, right? It's
amazing.
The only thing I'd add really is that you don't need to go from 0 to 100.
For sure.
Right? So work it out and then slowly
For sure.
work on little habits, little thoughts, little inputs, people around you, that you can use in order to move towards that and strive to attain that.
Yep.
And then same with, as we were talking about, identity and values are very linked, right? So just always be growing yourself, working on yourself in these ways. You'll be so surprised how far you've come in a year, 10 years. And then combined with, you know exactly the direction you're going and what you want to accomplish, you're unstoppable. You're a jet ski. Yeah.
That's true. Jet ski. So, yeah, to wrap, that's a good place to stop it. To wrap up, be a jet ski, don't be the Titanic. That was a good analogy, but come on.
That was you, bro.
All right, guys. See you in the next one.
Sick.